Senator Bernie Sanders renewing calls for a single-payer healthcare system as the GOP fails to replace and repair Obamacare. Listen to Senator Sanders.
Are you going to introduce single payer?
Absolutely. Of course we are. We're just, we're tweaking the final points of the bill, and we're figuring out how we can mount a national campaign to bring people together.
Socialism. Here it comes. We're joined now by Richard Wolff, visiting professor at the New School. By the way, this is the good professor. The New York Times says this man is America's most famous Marxist economist, and his name is Richard Wolff. Professor, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Look, I'm a child of the 1960s. I went to the London School of Economics, which in those days was pure Marxism. And then Marxism went out of fashion. The word socialism went out of fashion. But I think it's back. Why is it back?
It's an old story. Socialism is, in a way, the shadow of capitalism. Nothing guarantees the future of socialism so much as capitalism, because socialism is capitalism's self-criticism. Every economic system has had the people who love it and the people who don't. And they've had a debate. And we would have had that over the last 30 years if there weren't the taboo, the Cold War and all of that. And so we're just getting back to kind of where we should have been. Let's have a debate. Strengths and weaknesses of capitalism, strengths and weaknesses of socialism.
When I was studying Marxism, and we did back in the 1960s, there was the law.
You survived.
Yeah, I survived. I mean, there was the laws, the dynamic, the dialectic of history, which propelled us towards the inevitable proletarian revolution. You're a Marxist economist. Do you think, really, do you really think that a proletarian revolution is just around the corner in America?
No, and inevitability has never been my strong suit. I don't know what the future is going to bring any more than anybody else does. I think when you have people who are struggling and it's hard and they're trying to make a change and it doesn't come easily, there's a temptation to believe that somehow it's in the works. It'll happen for sure, maybe not right now, but in the future. It's an indulgence, but it's not a serious idea. I think the question of socialism is up for grabs, as is the question of capitalism too. Every other system has been born, changed, and died. Capitalism too.
Give me the main reason why you, a very nice guy with a smile on your face, should be a commie pinko bedwetter. Now, why do you think that socialism is so good for America now? Why?
Because capitalism isn't doing a real good job for most Americans. We have a level of inequality that is extreme, going back. Your group in England, if I can call you partly British, Oxfam, that did a study recently that said the richest 100 or so people have more wealth combined than the bottom half of the population of the planet. That's a level of inequality that you have to go back to the ancient pharaohs to see. We've also had two collapses of this capitalism in the last 75 years, one in the 30s and now another one in 2008. Most Americans are not back to where they were in 2007 in terms of their real incomes. Their jobs are less secure. They have fewer benefits. I think you're seeing a return to socialism, not so much because people like socialism. That may come. I don't think it's there yet. It's people who don't like what they got and what they see for their kids.
I think we are on the European road. I think we in America are moving down that collectivist road. How long do you think before we become like a Denmark or a France or something like that?
I don't think anyone knows. I certainly don't. I think that's going to be a question of what we on the left call struggles.
Do you want it? Do you really want it?
Oh, yes. I want a society of much less inequality, of much more security for people. I think we're better to each other as human beings that way.
I like the individual freedom and the vigor.
It's not either or.
Dynamism that America has.
Sure. You can give all kinds of freedom and dynamism to individuals. I love that. But that doesn't require that you allow that individualism and dynamism to produce an inequality that extinguishes the freedom of all those who don't have the resources.
So you're going to tax entrepreneurs to death? Okay,
no.
What would you do? What would you do with Jeff Bezos? He is now the richest person in the world, bar none. $91 billion, I think he's worth.
He's outdone Warren Buffett and Bill Gates. Here's what I would do. I don't believe in taxes on people who do hard work and earn their money. I don't think that has anything to do with socialism. My concern has been that other way you earn money, not by what you do.
A capital gain.
But what you own.
Well, would you tax his $91 billion worth of ownership in Amazon? Would you tax it?
I would tax the income he gets from his property at a much higher rate than anything I would tax, and I prefer none at all, for the income he gets by his work.
But you know what
a socialist is not against paying people for their work. But he's paying people when they don't work.
That tax.
What?
He's not going to pay that tax. Look,
In our system, he won't have to because he can buy the politicians.
No, it's not that. He's got $90 billion. He goes to a bank and says, I've got $90 billion worth of Amazon stock. Give me a loan. And the bank says, how much would you like? They give him a loan. He doesn't have to sell the stock where he would pay capital gains. No, he just gets the loan from the bank.
Absolutely.
What would you stop? How would you stop him?
Oh, I would stop him because I wouldn't allow that kind of thing to happen in the first place.
What?
There is no reason
what?
on this good earth why one human being ought to dispose of $90 billion.
Then how are you going to stop him?
You're going to stop him by not letting him accumulate that in the first place,
So
by taxing the income from property, not the income from labor.
He started the company, he built the stock, he's got ownership of the stock, he's got the wealth. At what point would you take it off him?
But the wealth he got, the wealth he accumulated, was mostly not from his work that he got paid for, but from his property. If you stop that right at the beginning,
property,
his ownership,
ownership of the company,
no ownership of the stocks.
All right, ownership of the
Only
stock
the company
in his company,
is
which
a matter
he
of
founded.
speech.
Well, how would you take that off him?
You give
would you
him
not
a
allow
reward.
him to own that stock?
You know, you would allow him to invest. You would allow him to initiate a business.
It's big of you.
But yes, well, I'm trying to be nice.
But you still haven't taken it off him.
No, you haven't taken it off him because you don't have a tax on the capital appreciation and the income from his property.
Thank God. But stay there, please, Professor.
Okay.
Keep that smile.
I will.
What do we got? Right after this, we're going to talk Venezuela, the collapse of socialism. And the good professor will stay to hear me out. Back in a second.